Yes, Elia, how can I help you? Sorry.
I mean, don't worry. Uh, I came here. Well, first let me introduce myself. I am Ilya. I am 22 years old,
Okay,
and I believe I'm agnostic, right? That's how we call it.
that's fine.
Someone that
Sure,
believes there is a God, but no, like until proven otherwise,
sure, sure,
basically, right?
sure.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, do you uh, do you define yourself as a scholar?
No, our definition of the scholar is different than you. We have a technical definition. No, and I don't fit that technical category of what scholars. No.
But
It's
you
being a
are
scholar in Islam. Being a scholar in Islam, it's way different than anything that Westerns would think about. It's a very difficult thing to acquire. Let's just put it that it's actual rank, and it's a technical term. Like there is specifications and requirements. So no, I'm not a scholar from that technical definition. You have people using the term scholar, someone who's knowledgeable in a field that studied it academically. That's how Westerners use it. So it just depends how you use the term. If you're using it from an Islamic point of view, no, I'm not a scholar from an Islamic technical point of view.
I'm
No.
using it as a point of view of like, are you sure about like
Do I
what you
speak
talk
based
about?
on knowledge and research of what I
Yes,
say? Yes, I try my best
like
to do that.
like
Does it? Does it?
researched everything,
Yes,
questioned and
yes,
everything.
yes,
All right,
yes, yes.
all right, all right.
Try my best.
So, uh, I wanna I wanna ask with I wanna start with like kind of a heavy question. So you said that you like did some research and know a lot about the Quran and everything. Uh, do you know like about the other books, the Torah, the Bible? Do you know like what they talk about?
Yes.
So, uh, in my youth, like when I went to school, I learned the Torah,
Okay.
and
Are you Jewish?
no, I'm not Jewish.
Are you no like lineage wise?
No, I mean, I guess my grandpa is, well, my grandmother rather, but I myself, I don't define myself in any religion. I don't
So if your
associate
grandmother
with any
is,
religion.
that means your mother or your father was, whoever was the child.
I mean, yeah, in Israel, that's where I live, we go by like mother.
So you
So,
live in Palestine. Okay. That's good to clarify as well. In an occupied state. Yes.
I guess, and I don't really want to get into it,
No, no,
but
no, 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 no. That's not a guess. That's a fact.
uh,
Historically, that land was given by the bill for declaration. That's not like a maybe yes, maybe no. That's not. That's a
I mean,
fact.
I understand, but I don't really want to get into that.
No, no. You
I,
use the
I, I
term.
just I just don't want to get heated about this.
No, no,
I'm
I'm not
sorry.
gonna get. I'm not heating. Do I
No,
sound
I'm
like I'm
talking
heated?
about myself.
Sure. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think if anyone gets to get heated, will be the people that are being slaughtered, the children, the innocent women and children that are over 70% of the population that are living in an open air prison. I think if someone should get heated or offended, are the videos that we see of people burning alive. We have weapons and airplanes where people being bombed continuously. These are the people that I'm going to say that you should be offended, not someone who is living in clear, like internet safety, house. Don't see issues there. You have access to water when you want. You have access to food. You have access to internet. So I don't think the person who should get heated is the person who's living in safety of someone else's stolen land. I don't
I
think that should
just
be the
I,
case.
I just don't want to raise this discussion.
That's fine. I'm talking right now. Right? I'm not asking you questions. I'm just like commenting on the things that are you saying in relation to that. Because I think the least a person like you could do is to choose their words carefully with a Muslim due to the events that are happening today. I think that's the least a person could. You know, if someone were to come with a different kind of terminology, then of course I wouldn't have mentioned all of that. But I think terminology is very important when such things are mentioned.
Uh,
All right,
um,
you said you're reading the Torah.
thank you for your input.
It's not input; it's actual facts and realities. Yes.
Okay. So, uh, my question was, uh, in the Torah and in the Bible, both of those books start, the same way, that there was nothing in the beginning, and then God created everything over the course of 7 days. and the seventh day rested, made animals and everything.
Okay.
What does the Quran talk about the beginning? Like, if they like, is it also like explaining how the world came to be?
So the descriptions in Genesis, in Bereshit, what you call Bereshit, for instance, when it says for in the Bereshit bara Elohim Hashemayim v'Taras, when it says the stuff in the beginning of Genesis, for instance, it goes into extensive detail about the creation of certain things and days and all of that. That's not the case in the Quran. The Quran talks about the creation, yes, talks about the number of days, and it refutes the absurdity of God resting. Do you believe that God needs to rest and refresh? If there is a God ever, does that God need to rest and refresh? Or do you believe that's an absurd concept?
If it defined him as a perfect being, then I guess not.
So the God that majority of the people in the land that you're living in right now that believe in, they believe in an imperfect concept of God, because them believing that he rested and refreshed is an imperfect thing. Because the Quran corrects that specific thing. So the Quran, Allah, when he speaks about creating the heavens and the earth, Allah says in the Quran something very important. He says, وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِن لُغُوب. Lughub is the minimalist amount possible of fatigue or tiredness. So Allah completely refutes this idea, because there are people who believe it, like the people who live in that land, Palestine, today. So we believe that's a deficiency. So Allah talks about creation of the heavens and the earth. Yes. Allah talks about creating the heavens, them being smoke and them being 7 layers. Allah talks about creation of the earth and then placing mountains and creating vegetation for the people. These things are there. Not in the systematic way that perhaps you might see more in Genesis, but it is there in the Quran in multiple different chapters. Yes. So if you read throughout the Quran, you will see it's talking about that.
So if all of those books start the same way, well, I mean you said so yourself that the Quran like corrects it, but
and it doesn't just correct what you're saying. Sorry, it doesn't start there. Quran doesn't start like the beginning of the Quran. Opening chapter 1 does not talk about the creation. It's not like Bereshit.
I mean, from what I understand, but I haven't done like a lot of research, so I can't really say it for sure. But the Quran basically he tells like the story from different perspectives, right? Or am I completely wrong?
No, whose story? It depends on whose story. Like certain prophets, it can tell.
Do you have like a first book, like for example, like in Bible?
Yeah, I just told
Genesis
you about it. The first chapter, the Fatiha, it's called Fatiha, means opening chapter. That's the translation of it. That is a form of a prayer, praising God, and then a form of a prayer, asking God to keep you on the straight path, etc. That's the first chapter. Second chapter of the Quran then talks about first different categories of people. First talks about the believers, 5 verses. It talks about disbelievers, 2 verses. Then 13 verses talks about the hypocrites. Then it goes into a bit of the creation, very brief. Then it goes to Adam. So and then it goes into different things, like the story of Moses.
So from Adam to Moses.
Yeah, it's not. It's a concept in the Arabic language of eloquence called iltifat, in which you shift different topics. That's a Quranic eloquence things that exist in the Arabic language. It's a very well-known concept in the Arabic language. So it does not. It's not like the Bible at all, and it does not start with like a story of creation or any of that.
Hold on. So if those books talk about the same thing, how come they diverge into different books? If they all tell basically the same story,
they don't divert into different books. They're separate books.
I mean, but they tell the same story.
No. And plus, what the Christians believe, they believe in the books of the Jews as well. It's not like they have the same story repeated or something. They just believe in the previous books of the Jews. That's what the Christians do. Whatever the Bible, New Testament includes the Old Testament, which includes the 5 books, which what you call the Torah and the books of the prophets. So it's not like that they repeat the same thing again. No, they just believe in what you believe in. They accept the same things that you accept. That's why you have a similarity with them, because they say accept the same scripture. Now, on the other hand, the Quran does not do that. Does not do that. It's not a book that comes to repeat exactly what was said. it corrects many things that have been changed. That's the point that I'm telling you. So the things about the prophets making a lot of sins and living horrible lives, all of that is corrected in the Quran. Description that Adam was perfect, original sin, all of these things have been removed. Then it's not removed, it's corrected. Allah tells you that these things are corruptions. This is not how history happened. God does not need to rest. He does not wrestle with a human called Jacob and then get defeated and then call him Israel. That doesn't happen. God is not defeated. So it corrects this irrational, incorrect things.
Understood. Okay. I also have like a small question.
Then I'll have a question for you after you're done. Yes.
Definitely. So I heard that drawing or listening to music it's haram, right? Could you explain why?
Because Allah commanded it. So music, I've already briefly talked about that in the stream a little bit. It's an instrument used of Satan. You can see what music is about today. Just degrading women, killing, drugs, all of this stuff. It exists always in combination of things like drinking alcohol, fornication, things which are used as instruments of Satan. It's very addictive. It can have a negative influence on the human being, the individual. But that's not why it's haram. It's haram because Allah said it's haram. Now, when it comes to drawing, it's only drawing living things. It's only drawing living human beings. It's not only just drawing, but it's also mainly the hadith is used about sculpture, making something. Because we humans have a habit of worshiping these things later on. That's how it happened in the beginning, at the time of Noah. People have made these idols of righteous people, and then they started worshiping them. So anything that can lead into a form of worship is strictly prohibited as well, or worshiping other than God, strictly prohibited as well in Islam. All right. So now my question to you is, do you feel good with yourself living in someone else's land? Like, do you feel okay with yourself? Like, I want to know what kind of narrative you have in your mind, what kind of a person you are. What is the narrative that you tell yourself, like, or the people around you tell themselves when they are staying in someone else's land? Your family, originally, did they come to the land of Palestine?
I mean, my heritage started in Ukraine, in Odessa.
Okay, sure. So they came from Ukraine. Yes.
Yes.
What time did they come from Ukraine?
A long time ago, before I was born, like 27, 28 years ago.
So that's not a long time.
My parents immigrated here.
Sure. So your parents are Ukrainian Jewish immigrants into the land of Palestine.
Okay. Yes.
No, I'm just clarifying. This is the case. So the Ukrainian Jews, do you know the land that you're living on? Was there someone else living in that land before you stayed in it? Before they were evicted or kicked out?
I don't know. I guess not, because Ashkelon was it was a city occupied by the Jewish people.
No, the land you're in was free. So who was there? There had to have been someone living in that place now, or owning that place, having that property, living in that place. Now, you do not know who is what you're saying to me. Now, what if there was a person? Now, let's say hypothetically, what if there was a person who was a Palestinian living in that land, in that you're staying in right now, and then a group of people came. That the Palestinian country opened the doors and allowed these people to come in on the ships of Herzl, including from Ukraine, from Sweden, from all over, who were running away from Hitler, of course. So the Muslims opened their doors, and these people came in. And then that person that opened his door, one of the people that lived in the house that you were in, the British government ended up, after the Arabs became weak and all of that, taking control over that land, and then doing something called the Balfour Declaration. And then gradually, it became a Jewish government. And then they kicked that man who opened his doors of his house, and then the house became vacated and empty, or they forced him to sell it, or whatever they did. They took it forcibly from him, like that fat person that there is a meme of him. If I don't take it, someone else will take it. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
You are stealing my house. And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
And then your ancestors or whoever it is came and took that land. Then how would that make you feel? How does that, if this was the case, let's say this was the history actually of what happened, how does that make you feel as a person living in that land?
I mean, I would like to think that he was paid to vacate the premises.
No, he didn't want to sell it. He didn't want to sell it, and whatever he was paid was nothing, literally, just crumbs of bread. And he was forced. So the government said you don't even have a choice whether you sell it or not. I don't know if you're familiar with these things happening in the land you live in or not. Are you familiar with that or not?
I have heard, yes.
Okay. And how does that make you feel?
To be honest,
yes.
It was made for the name of advancement. His land was used to nurture new people that could
superior, right?
value.
People that are superior, right? The chosen people of God.
I didn't say that.
I'm asking you, I'm clarifying because it seems like ends justify the means. So if it nurtures, there's no problem. You can take the land.
I said that the land that was used for this family can now be used for multiple families, which will be able
used for families, his families. Do you know Palestinians have way more children?
But now the same.
Do you know that Palestinians have way more children than your people ever do? Talking about the Israelis that live, because when you have Tel Aviv being the capital of gayism, gay state in the world, the capital of being gay or LGBTQ, for example, or the fact that a lot of you right now are like yourself, agnostic or atheist, you don't believe in having children anyways much. So the people who actually have families and do have families, multiple families, are likely to be the Palestinians. Likely. We're talking about statistics here. Of course, there are exceptions with Jewish people who are very happy making families, very good people. They exist. Now, I'm talking about the overwhelming majority are not really multiplying. You can look at the stats in your own country. I'm not sure if you've done that or not. The amount of children that the Israelis are having versus the Palestinians. There is a reason they're killing them. Have you heard of mowing the lawn, the policy of mowing the lawn?
No.
The Israeli policy, army policy of mowing the lawn is to kill Palestinians every couple of years. So you ensure that they don't multiply. That's why you have 70. Why do you have 70% in women and children in Gaza, in the open air prison? And this is a question I have. Do you condemn the fact that there are now millions of people living in this very small area called Gaza, being bombed continuously, being told to evacuate from a place and then bombing it, and being derived access to food, water, internet, or communication with the people outside, and being treated like lesser, not actually human beings? Do you condemn that?
Oh, it's really hard to answer without sounding like not a nice person. But I don't really care.
Exactly. And I love you answer this way. You answer two things, which here shows the people the reality of people who occupy the land of Palestine today. Number one, they think just ends justifies the means. If I have the land, if I take it, if I do what everyone, who cares if we took it from someone else forced? Our families are going to live there. Number one. Number two, who cares if people are killed or being bombed or whatever it is? As long as we are happy, we're doing whatever we want, the chosen people of God, allegedly, then everything is all good. It's all fine. Who cares, man? Like, human beings are killed, man. Who cares? Babies are being burned alive. So what? Who cares? So this is, I do appreciate you showing that reality to the world. I'll say that's sufficient, as more than enough for me.